Now, as a child of God, we must all face temptations and trials. A season where we are tested for our faith, our trust in God. A season of transformation of character, a season to spiritually grow. What are Job moments? Job moments are seasons or a time period of hardship where we are tested to contend for our faith.
Amen.
We all know the story of Job, how he was a righteous man in the land, how he was wealthy and riches in the land. He went from being wealthy and healthy to losing his land and his children and almost losing his health as well. Now, may we all turn to the book of Job, chapter 1. Job chapter 1. And I'll read. Now, there was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. And that man was blameless and upright, and one who feared God and shunned evil. And 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him, also possessions were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large household, so this man was the greatest of all people of the east. Now let us get to verse 13. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabeans raided them, took them away. Indeed, they killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was speaking, another also came and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was speaking, came another one, said, the Chaldeans formed 3 bands, raided the camels and took them away. Yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking in the oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind from across the wilderness struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Then Job arose, tore his robe, and shaved his head, and he said to the ground and worshiped. And he fell to the ground and worshipped, and he said, naked I came from my father's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gives and he takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Amen? Now I want us all to picture yourself in this scenario. While you're at home, you're relaxing. You know your children are at your mother's house eating and having fun. And your land, you have your sheep, you have your donkeys, and they're okay in the land. But then all of a sudden you hear all this bad news. Your land is gone, your animals are dead, your children are gone in one day. How would you feel? How would you have handled that situation? Would your first words be praise unto Yahweh? Or would you insult him? But you read here, Job didn't even respond. He tore his clothes, he shaved his head, and he worshiped God. How many of us here have reached to the point that we love God so much that we could have just praised him in this situation? How many of us can do that? But children of God, we must know, how do you handle your Job moments? Do you give up? Do you murmur? Do you complain that things are going wrong in your life? Do you just give in? Or do you rise up in faith, seek the face of the Lord, and contend for the faith because you know your Father in heaven is working something out in your life? How would you handle your Job moments? Would you have handled it how Job would? How he surrendered and knelt down and worshiped God despite all he has lost? How would you handle that? Amen?
Amen.
Now I'm going to point out some points how to overcome your Job moments. The first one, trusting God. Committing your lives, your troubles, your worries, your concerns, your prayers, and all things onto Him. Because He knows your plans, and they are not of evil, they are good. Have faith in God, because He knows all things. He knows your seasons. He knows your trials. He has the blueprint of your life in His hands. Philippians 4:6 says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Do not be anxious about nothing. Trust God and unto Him, and commit it unto Him, because a broken and a contrite heart He will not despise. Read His word, because His word is life. Because His word will guide you through your circumstances and situations. Because His word will never come short, and it will never come to Him void. Because when He said what He said, He means what He says.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the second point is, what voices are you listening to when you're going through challenges? Are you listening to the voice of God? Are you listening to the voice of your friends? Are you listening to the voice of confusion? Are you listening to the voice of Satan? Who will you listen when you're facing circumstances? Now, if we can all turn back to Job, and this time will be in chapter 2, and I'll be reading from verses 7 to 10. Job chapter 2, 7 to 10. Now, it says, so Satan went from the presence of God and struck Job with painful boils, from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And he took himself a pot-thread shirt with which to scrape himself, while he sat in the midst of the ashes. Then his wife said to him, Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. But he said to her, You speak as one of those foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God? And shall we not accept adversary? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Amen?
Amen.
As we read here, we will face temptations. The enemy can use the people close to you to question God, to make you think twice about your faith. He can use your friend, your best friend, your wife, your husband, your co-worker, whoever around you to sin against God. And because of how things are looking in your life, you would crave in and begin to question. But this is the trap of the enemy, trying to lure you into hellfire with him. We should be spiritually alert and recognize those things so we don't bring the anger onto the Lord onto us. That is why you should be steadfast in faith with the Lord, because in situations like this, you can resist the enemy. And that is what Job did. He cursed his own wife. His wife, who should be by his side, he's for lifer, but she did not support him in this. But Job didn't care that was his wife. The only thing he cared about in that situation was God. And he stood steadfast in what he contended. So do not please man and displease God, but please God and displease man. Because God will never disappoint, but man will disappoint. Because he says what he will do. He will do it, and his word will never come to him void. But it has been sanctified in heaven 7 times. So, brethren, let us listen to the quiet voice in the wilderness telling us, I am with you. Do not be dismayed, but be courageous. Listen to that voice, because that voice is the voice of the Lord. The voice of the Lord are better than the voice of man.
Amen.
Amen?
Amen.
Now, my last point is stumbling blocks. As we face trials, there will be a period where our prayers seem they are not being answered. A period though you fast and pray, nothing comes out of it. But you don't know what is going in the realms of the Spirit. And we can see that in the book of Daniel, chapter 10. Daniel chapter 10. And I read, verse 10. Suddenly a hand touched me, which made me tremble on my knees and on the palms of my hand. And he said to me, O Daniel, man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak to you, and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you. While he was speaking these words to me, I stood trembling. Then he said to me, do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God. Your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, and behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I have been left alone there with the kings of Persia. Amen? Amen. Now, as we can see here, the first day Daniel prayed his prayer, they were answered. And the angel Gabriel went to deliver the answered prayers unto him. But the prince of Persia fought him. This is an example of how things work in the realms of the spirit. Your prayers can be answered on the first day, but the enemy can delay them. So don't think that God does not hear your prayers. He did. The enemy is just trying to prevent that prayer to be answered. So it is important to pray against any stumbling block or anything that the enemy can put to delay your prayers. Amen? Amen. But as for you in that time or season, be patient and be prayerful, so you as well don't spiritually delay your prayers as well. And so you as well don't anger the Lord with, why God? But have patience and trust in the Lord your God. But the enemy isn't only the person who can put stumbling blocks. We ourselves can put stumbling blocks with our belief, lack of faith, doubt, complaining, sins, and not putting God first. We can be our own stumbling blocks to our blessings. And that's what the Israel experienced. Because they sinned against the Lord. They always went back to adultery. But the journey that was supposed to be for 40 days turned into 40 years. So let us be mindful so we don't also ourselves delay our blessings with our belief and our lack of faith and turning your back against God. So let us be steadfast in prayer. Let us trust the Lord in all things because He knows our circumstances and our season that we are going through. Do not be your own stumbling block because a prayer that you pray that should be answered in 2 days will be answered in 30 years. So, child of God, I came here to encourage you that seek the Lord in your Job moments. Seek the Lord in that season that looks to be hard. But in all things, keep on praying. Keep on praying unto Him because He will turn things around. As Job was going through these temptations, his friends were in his ear trying to degrade him from God. But he stood steadfast in his faith, and he got triple of what he lost unto him. What will you do when you're going through your Job moments? Will you trust Him or will you forsake Him? Thank you.